Thanks, Julie.
Just because I don't know everybody's name, if everybody could just introduce themselves around the room and we'll start in the room first and then we will move to the, I guess get people's names, they're all written up there. So on the, joining us remotely, we have Tony Genna, Jack Hunter, Dominique from the CMRPC, Jacqueline Martin, Ryan Saul, Ted Wood, well, Ann's here, Tom Morali, and Lisa.
And Kate Martin is here.
Got it, Kate?
She is just here. She's not on here.
Okay. Excellent.
And Bob Sweet. Are you
Yeah.
on there?
Nope, he's got no laptop. So they won't show on there, just show who's here. All right. Let's see. Nomination approval. So we need a nomination and approval of a vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Anybody volunteer for vice chair? It's a member. Who's the current, would be Bill. Right?
Bill, and then the vice chair resigned.
Right.
And now Lisa, the secretary, has been bumped
Just
up to chair for today.
Okay. Well, I don't know that we can force anybody to be a vice chair.
But the vice chair is doing everything right now, so it's more like
Gotcha.
sub-chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I understand. So essentially, well,
We were hoping another planning board member was gonna jump on, so that,
I'd say can we table this till the next meeting and
Yeah.
we'll let me talk to the planning board members and see if I can get one of them to actually do it. I was gonna say I'll volunteer for it, but I didn't.
no, same,
Yeah.
I didn't volunteer.
Sorry, Jack, go ahead.
Oh, just that we have a meeting a week from tonight. I can ask them at that time. I know Bill's not going to be here for a while, so, and I'm here to listen and help out if I can.
Understood.
So what's the next agenda?
All right, so we'll table this to the next meeting and we'll talk about it at the next planning board meeting. Approval of minutes from the last meeting.
That's not the,
Today?
no, one of the last.
I did get those,
Okay,
but we all have to approve them, not just me.
I didn't bring them, so we'll have to table that.
That's fine. Yep, no, that's no problem. We can table that for the next one. So how about we can go to the review of the final survey results, Dominique?
Hi there. Good evening, everybody. So nice to see you all again after our break due to the canceled meeting last month. Thanks for being here. Looking forward to resuming our momentum that we have had going all along. So Ryan Saul, my colleague, is here with us, and he is going to brief you on the final survey results.
Oh, sorry, hold on, Ryan. Tony just has his hand up. I just want to catch him real quick before we get in.
Yeah, I don't want to obviously derail us at all. My guest Jackie does have a hard stop at 6:30, so I just want to make sure that we can get to her before then. That's all.
Oh, is that 6:30?
Yeah, she needs to be off by 6:30.
So she's one of the guest participants.
Yep.
You want to do that stuff?
Yeah, Dominique, would you mind if we just went a little out of order?
Oh no, I didn't realize that our guests were in fact in attendance. Please, I would much prefer to hear what Jackie has to say and hear her briefing, and thank you.
Great. Let's go with that.
All right, so the two guests that we have today are Jackie Martin and Tom Morali. Tom's going to be speaking on behalf of the Economic Development Committee about the Economic Development section. But due to Jackie's time constraint, we're going to ask that she goes first. She is the executive director of the Menden Housing Authority, as well as the Milford Housing Authority. For those of you that don't know, we actually kind of contract out to Milford Housing Authority to help run the show here in Menden. So she'll be I've asked her to give a brief 2 to 5 minute overview of what affordable housing is, because I think it'd be very helpful for us all to have a better understanding of that before we review the goals. So Jackie's going to be speaking to probably 2 main points, which is going to be public housing, which is what Menden Housing Authority does, as well as the other aspects of affordable housing, which some of you might know as Section 8, the vouchers and stuff like that, which is more commonly known. So she's going to give us a quick overview of that. She'll be around to answer any questions, but I just ask that we don't really get into the weeds because that's not the goal of this one. Jackie has been sent the goals, so she's aware of them, and we can kind of pick her brain and make sure that we're on the right track. I also do have comments from Bill McHenry on the goals as well, so we do have a few seasoned vets when it comes to the housing section. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jackie, and she can kind of take it off from here.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So the Menden Housing Authority was established to provide safe, decent, and affordable housing opportunities to the town of Menden, and we remain committed to this mission today. Eligibility is based on program income limits, and the rent is set on the tenant's income, which is 30% of their gross income with some allowable deductions. The housing authority is the landlord, takes care of the property. We step in almost in a social services aspect as well to support our residents that may not have that support within the community, and we really try to bridge and make sure that they're supported. In Menden, we have 31 bedroom units of elderly disabled, of which none of them are wheelchair accessible units at this time. We do not have any family units. To give you an idea of the housing crisis in Massachusetts, the Menden waiting list currently has over 1,122, of which 436 are elderly applicants and 686 are handicapped. That could mean that they're young disabled or that they're looking for a wheelchair unit. We don't have any family data right now because of the way that the CHAMP list, the centralized waiting list, works. We don't have family housing, so then therefore people can't get added to that list. But from digging around a little bit on the Milford side of the wait list, I've been able to identify at least 11 families with the Menden zip code that are on the Milford waiting list looking to get housed in our family housing at this time. This is a pretty stark contrast to the 88 applicants that we had on our waiting list in 2019 prior to the centralized waiting list. Housing authorities are seeing a lot more applicants applying to a lot more housing authorities throughout the Commonwealth because of this. It's a little easier for them. That being said, it kind of makes it a little harder for us to actually house people that are within our own community sometime that we know that there's a need for there as well. The selection is based off of waiting list, based off of certain priorities and preferences. And just to kind of give you an idea, in Milford, we have over 11,000 people on our waiting list. So there certainly is a housing crisis in Massachusetts, and there's certainly some benefits to Menden taking some control over that affordable housing, providing the opportunities for residents to have housing, as well as to maintain some control within that development. So Menden has something called the Community Preservation Fund. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that. It's a state law that came into effect in 2000. At some point in history, Menden residents voted to add a small surcharge to your local property taxes. And then it gets combined with a matching fund from the statewide preservation fund. And the dedicated funds are used to build and rehabilitate parks, playgrounds, recreational fields, protect open space, support community local affordable housing developments, and preserve historic buildings and resources. The communities are required to allocate 10% of the funds each year to 3 different categories, of which one is affordable housing. The other 2 are open space and historic preservation, and the remaining 70% can be allocated as the committee sees fit. The CPA funds, as far as affordable housing is concerned, can be used for acquisition, for creation, for preservation, or for the support of community housing, and for the rehabilitation and restoration of community housing that's been acquired or created using CPA funds. It can be used for a wide range of housing purposes, making it a valuable resource for communities at all stages of addressing the housing need, from developing initial strategies to creating programs and preserving existing developments. I had a community preservation at my former housing authority in Belmont. They used funds two different ways. One was that they were able to upgrade some electrical that was a threat to the building, and they were able to use those funds because of that threat to the building, not because of the resident safety. The other way is that Belmont applied and used some of the funds to do a review of one of our public housing senior developments to see what the title looked like, what the land use, if there was going to be any issues developing on it, and to kind of get an idea of what we could possibly do and what funding was out there and available to the housing authority for that kind of creation of additional housing units. Public housing is held in perpetuity, so you can't take away any units. Anything that you redevelop, you need to at least do 1-for-1. DHCD and HUD would want to see more than that. So moving into 40B, this is kind of more of what you're seeing around other communities, the apartment complexes that are going up, with about 20 to 25% of those units being affordable units, which means that they're somewhere around the 80% of the gross area income, and the market units are going to be around 100 to 150%. You're going to see individuals in those units at 100 to 150% of the median income. The safe haven that you may have heard about is that when a community reaches 10% of that affordable housing, they're considered a safe haven community, which means that it gives your zoning board a lot more ability to work with developers to make sure that you're happy with the development that may be coming in. And without that safe haven, it can be hard for the community to give some pushback when there should be. So it's better to kind of get ahead of this and make sure that we are becoming a safe haven community, and to, again, I'm from housing, so I want to see as many units as we can and help as many people as we can. So in one way that housing authorities around Massachusetts have started to connect the 40B with your housing authority is that they create these nonprofits, and you have usually the executive director running the nonprofit along with 2 board members from the housing authority, along with other members in the community. And that's one way that you can kind of create additional housing opportunities that are outside of just strict, public housing. And that gives you a little bit more long-term reach within that housing, because the housing authority or the nonprofit would be the one who's running it. So they're the landlord. So you don't need to worry about if the building gets sold and who the landlord's going to be. And again, those units are also held in perpetuity, if not fully, for at least a good number of years, between 50 and 100 years, depending on funding and how it's done. So there's a lot of resources. There's a lot of, this conversation I try to keep short. I talk a lot and I talk fast, but there are really a lot of opportunities here. And this is not a short conversation, but hopefully it does give you guys some points on, some of the bigger picture of where you could start heading. There are some, the Community Preservation Coalition provides guidance to your CPA or your CPC, your committee. There's CHAPA, Mass Housing, and then there's, DHCD and HUD and such. So.
Great, thank you, Jackie. Dominique had requested, could you just repeat the Menden stats again for us real quick?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't, it threw me off. I couldn't read it while I was doing it. Yes, so right now for Menden, we have 1,122 elderly and handicap applicants currently waiting on our waiting list. 436 of those are elderly and 686 are handicapped. We don't have strong data on the number of families in need in Menden, but by going on my Milford list and trying to extract some data, I'm confident that we have at least 11 families using the Menden zip code that are on our waiting list in Milford, looking to get housed.
Okay, and just to confirm, there were 30 units, no family units, and no handicap accessible units, correct?
Yeah, we're in dire need, and most of the housing authorities are, of adding units that have some wheelchair. We can do some accommodations, but really to have somebody in a safe, healthy, home, a wheelchair unit is certainly helpful.
Thanks, Jackie. Hang on. Jack, you have your hand up? You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in only because affordable housing is kind of one of my niches in my planning world. And I've dealt with it my whole career. And Jackie did a very good job explaining it, I think. You know, I found that with 40Bs, she is absolutely right. But there's another angle that I've been very successful with in the last 5 or 6 years, and that's a friendly 40B.
Mhm.
And the object with a friendly 40B is you work with the developer, you pick the developer in some ways, and you hold each other's hands as you go through the process, and hopefully you can achieve 100% affordability. And this whole notion of affordability, I think there's a big misconception and obviously a bad perception a lot of times. There's affordable housing that's defined by the federal government and the state, and then there's housing that's affordable. And that's housing that's greater than 80%, but people have to be able to afford them to live in them. So I think, I like to see us think that way. I think using CPA funds, Jackie's absolutely right. I've used CPA funds to purchase land. I've used CPA funds, believe it or not, to have bridge monies for people not to be foreclosed on if they were income eligible. I've used CPA money for renovation of houses if they were income eligible. And currently I'm working with the town of Hudson with a friendly 40B to renovate a police station for 100% affordable, to go from a police station to 40 units, all of which will be handicapped accessible. And my last point is another angle to use is, and I've only done this a little bit, is to develop affordable housing using a nonprofit probably, and then handing it over if the housing authority is willing to take it, to manage it, own it, and keep it in perpetuity. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. But, let's face it, if there wasn't 40B and there weren't housing authorities, nobody would want affordable housing. No one. And you'd have very little other than poor people living in houses that they've inherited or whatever. So, and last, I'm sorry, I keep thinking of things. I know there's new legislation coming down that I believe is passed one of the houses. And it's going to demand that towns, in order to get funding, certain funding, I'm not sure what, that you have to have as of right affordable housing. And for any kind of zone change for affordable housing, it will take 50% vote, not 2/3 vote. So stuff's going to happen. And the more versed and prepared we are, I think will make the trip a little better. That's it.
Thanks, Jack. Kathy, you got your hand up? Kathy Schofield.
Yeah, thanks, Lonnie. I guess my question is, I'm trying to wrap my head around how the housing authority works in Menden. Is it owned by the town of Milford, or does Milford oversee it? And where do we intersect? Where do we overlap? Because it seems like it's a separate entity outside of the town, from any interactions I've had there.
Yes, so the Housing Authority is separate from the town. We're our own quasi-governmental agency. We only have state funding in Menden. The Menden Housing Authority has its own board of 4 elected and 1 appointed member. And Milford Housing likewise is its own entity with its own board. And the Menden Housing Authority and the Milford Housing Authority boards both entered into a contract that the executive director oversee the Menden Housing Authority. Especially with state aided housing, there's a lot of hoops that we go through. There's a lot of regs that we need to know. There's a lot of things that go along with that. And it's very hard to find someone with the skill set that's willing to come in and do a part-time, 16 hours a week to manage a smaller authority like that. So we often see it's becoming very regular that you'll see a larger housing authority in the area will enter into these management agreements to oversee smaller housing authorities in the area. So our staff, Milford Housing Authority staff, is the only administrative staff. We oversee, we handle Menden just as if it's our own here in Milford. And then we have one part-time maintenance employee for the Menden Housing Authority that's employed directly through Menden Housing.
Thank you.
There's multiple budgets and everything's separate, but it's just overseen.
Yeah. We had talked about, years ago about, coming in with a pathway for connectivity for pedestrians, and we just didn't seem to get very far, but I know there's extra land there. I certainly would like to think that we could, consider doing some handicap, accessibility, directives down there, with our CPA funds, and it would only make perfect sense.
Yeah.
All right, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy? Ann?
I had a question. If Menden came up with another project, does the Milford Housing Authority have the capacity to manage another, unit or units?
We should have the capacity. What would typically happen in a case like that is that we would just add additional staff to our staffing if needed, because I'm sure that the income that's derived from that property will increase the agreement, and the fee that Menden pays Milford would probably go up in order to cover that. That kind of depends too, though, on how we got there and what the funding was. But yeah, I would say that we would, I can't speak for the boards, but I'd be happy to, assist in any way.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Jackie, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us tonight. And with that, I'll turn it to Tom, probably, unless you have anything else you want to close with, Jackie?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm happy to, help in any way I can in the future as well.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jackie.
Care.
Tom, you ready? Sorry, actually, Tony, do you have anything in between?
No, I mean, I think I saw on the agenda that the goals will be discussed a bit later. So I think just going over these high level overviews is the best way to proceed right now.
Great, thanks.
Hello. Thanks for having me here, everyone. I'm Tom Morali. I'm the chair of Menden's Economic Development Committee, of which we have a member on the steering committee. Tony Jenna is also on the committee, and Mazar, who please feel free to add on to what I say with your own comments as well. So in looking at the trajectory of Menden in terms of economic development, I think, first of all, a little bit about our committee. We're appointed by the select board to help promote policies that help the economic development of Menden, to advocate for supporting businesses in the creation of new employment opportunities in the town. Over the years, a few things we've seen. We've seen a lack of town water has really been a factor which discourages businesses from seeking to relocate to Menden. We found that the town has several properties that are in commercial locations that we might want to look for further development on and turn into a bigger tax base. And we've noted that as well, there are several residents who are opposed to more development, as we've seen at the survey results so far. So we're trying to pursue a balanced approach. So with these things in mind, I'm personally very excited to see the progress made with the master plan so far, in these discussions so far. Happy to assist and be here in any way when you're putting it together. Tony has been a great addition to the Economic Development Committee. I hope he's a good addition to the Master Plan Steering Committee as well. Ian or Tony, do you have anything you'd like to add besides what I just said? I know I have a little bit of a shorter presentation, but I figured I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have or really come for the discussion.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add, Tom. I mean, I think most of the people here are pretty well aware of the, the issues that a lack of sewer and public water cause for the development. So yeah, no, if you don't mind hanging around, we can definitely use your input on the goals.
Absolutely, I'll be here.
Okay. All right, Tom, thank you very much. Tony, thank you. I will, with that, I think we should move on back onto the survey results as we were going to do.
I just really quick, Dominique wanted to hear about existing or potential initiatives of the EDC. I just want to speak to that really quick. So something we've done is every year since we've started, we've had an open for business breakfast where we provide opportunities for local businesses in town to connect with representatives from state-funded agencies that help business. I know we've also helped sponsor a Blackstone Valley Restaurant Week a couple years ago to help bring more people into the Blackstone Valley, into our restaurants. We had a few restaurants in town who participated. We were in constant contact with other state agencies as well, such as the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce, highlighting grant opportunities for town. And we also have been a way for businesses to highlight concerns they've had, whether it's signage, whether it's different policies such as or red tape. We've listened to that and brought the feedback. Oh, okay. We brought feedback back to the select board and other committees as well. So we're kind of act as kind of a combination chamber of commerce and specialized group that looks at the town policies regarding businesses. We also recently supported, or the committee supported, I actually abstained from the vote because I'm also the town moderator, the recent articles that were on the warrant regarding zoning changes on 16. And looking forward to hearing what we might be thinking about with those parcels next.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Ann has a quick question.
Yeah, I just had a comment. I mean, one thing we're also looking at is that when development is done, that it's done well and it's
Absolutely.
the Menden design guidelines, use low impact development, and it's good for Menden.
Thank you. Kathy?
Hi, question for Tom. What percentage of the local businesses are participating? And do you see a need to do more outreach? Like, are you getting a good enough, response?
I mean, we usually have about 15 to 20 businesses come. We'd always like to see more. I mean, I've gone door to door, actually visited every business in town, doing outreach for these. So you're talking the open for business breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone door to door with flyers, handed them directly to business owners. So we are we're pretty persistent. I mean, I'd have to, we're always an open door. If anybody ever wants to contact me or come to an EDC meeting, we'd love to have you. I know as of today, we do have one vacancy. So that's going to be advertised soon. We'd love some local business owners to take part as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had them on before, but like I said, we'd love people to participate both as members of the committee as well as use us as your sounding board as well. If you're a business owner, you have a concern, please bring it forward to the board, and it's something we'll highlight, look into, and also fix to the best of our ability. So.
One more quick question. What are the biggest obstacles that you think local businesses are experiencing that, is there one or two or several that resonate with a lot of businesses, or is it just kind of across the board?
Something that I've heard is our application processes tend to be in some cases larger than other towns in the area. But then again, there are other towns that have a far more involved application processes. And, after looking into this, and I think Menden mostly meets state guidelines. So that's what I hear from people, and we do look into it, like I said, to the best of our ability. But I think constantly looking at these processes and trying to streamline them is something we'd be very much interested in pursuing.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks again, Tom.
Yeah.
All right. If you'd like to go ahead with the survey results.
Great, thanks. Ryan, if you're there, please feel free to take over and.
Yep. Just let me share my screen quick. Is anyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So before I begin, apologies if any of the graphs that I present, if any of them are blurry, they're hard to see, just let me know if you can't read anything and I'll relay the information. Well, first off, congrats on 726 total responses. Dominique would know better than I would, but from my understanding, that is really well done and definitely a sign of all the hard work you guys put in getting the word out on that. So congrats. So I didn't pull every single question, but I pulled most of them. Start off with this one about, which of the following housing types are most needed in Menden. Majority said both senior housing and housing for families. And there's also very low support for very low income populations. But interesting enough, there's also, somewhat moderate support for low to moderate income households as well. So a bit of a mixed bag across the board. In terms of how the respondents thought the town should approach land use and development, there was fairly low support for increasing residential development, and there was actually a lot of answers that indicated they would like it to stay the same or they were neutral on it. There was not too many people that kind of indicated any kind of decrease for anything besides industrial development, which also had pretty low support for increasing industrial development. And interesting enough, also this one, there was a lot of support for also increasing commercial development, but then also agricultural and historic districts. A lot of times I think increasing commercial development can somewhat butt heads with, kind of preserving agricultural or historic districts. So I just thought that was an interesting data point. This question overall, which of the following types of development do you feel Menden needs more or less of? I know it's probably a little difficult to read, so I kind of took the time to circle out kind of the 2 points I thought I found interesting. In terms of multifamily residential development, this was by far and large the one that had the least support for different kinds of development. And then on the contrary, there was quite a few different developments such as outdoor recreation facility, supermarkets, pharmacies, restaurants, but then small businesses was pretty, by and large, the most supported development that Menden residents thought they might need more of. In terms of which areas in town should be promoted for commercial, industrial, or mixed use, pretty clearly here, any of the areas indicated that included Route 16, that's where a lot of residents felt that commercial development should be concentrated, also along Route 140 and some from Menden Center. And there was very little support in any of the indicated areas for industrial development, maybe besides some moderate support for Route 140 Cape Road. This was an open-ended question. Are there any areas in town where parking, traffic, or speed is an issue? And one of the main themes I want to talk about here, I know this question specifically mentions parking, traffic, or speed, but traffic and speed, those two in particular, they appeared not only in the open-ended response of this one, but they were, those two issues were appearing in almost any chance that residents had or respondents had to comment on a question, even if it was unrelated to anything with traffic or speed or roadways or whatnot. So it definitely seemed like that was an issue that was mentioned over and over and over again. In some of the sections, and I know these are many of the main roads in Menden, but some of the specific roads that were mentioned were Route 16 in general, Main Street, North Ave, both Hartford Aves of East and West, and also Providence Road. And in some of the comments, there are some specific intersections mentioned as well, but it seems like traffic and speeding was a pretty big issue for a lot of the respondents. Do you think that the town of Menden should spend money to protect key parcels of land for conservation or recreational purposes over 10 years? So majority of respondents, and that's over 75%, either said, yes, we want to do that for conservation. Yes, we want to do that for recreational outdoor spaces, or yes, for both conservation and recreational spaces. So that's a pretty clear majority for some type of kind of spending money to protect key parcels of land for one or both. And then just about 20% said, no, the town should not be doing that. Please indicate the extent to which you support the following approaches to Menden Center. And again, apologies if this one's difficult to read, but there was very little support for increasing housing around Menden Center. So there's very little, strongly supporting that, and there was also the most highly strongly opposed. Beyond that, there, was kind of broadly pretty general similar support for a lot of these. Attracting more businesses was the most highly strongly supported answer. Also with some placemaking upgrades, which was the second highly most supported. 20 years from now, the ideal Menden Center. Many residents felt that it could be similar to its current state, but also the majority of residents, over 70%, said it would include some more small retail commercial spaces. And then also over 50% said they would like to see more outdoor spaces in Menden Center. The town recently added a historic bylaw and designated the center of town, that is Maine, Maple, Elm, Hastings, as a historic district. Would you support the creation of additional historic districts, and if so, where? As you can see here, it seemed like there was pretty lukewarm to not much support at all for creating additional historic districts in these different areas, but also almost over 40% said not sure. So it could be, something along the lines of maybe this additional historic district could be explained, or residents may not know exactly what it is or how it would impact them. Menden has a bylaw where a developer of a subdivision may build smaller lots and have shorter roads on 45% of the land if they set aside 55% of the land as preserved public open space. Do support this design. So just over 40% said that they do support it. Pretty large majority of respondents, over 30% said they're not sure. And then over 20% said they do not support it. Please indicate the extent to which you support the following approaches to economic development. So I found this a bit interesting. So the most strongly supported answer was expanding the tax base, but it was also the second most highly strongly opposed. So I just thought that was a little bit of an interesting juxtaposition there. Nothing was too strongly opposed. The most strongly opposed one was using tax incentives. That was also the one that was the least strongly supported. But expanding the tax base definitely seemed to be the most supported option, and using tax incentives seemed to be the least supported option. What types of businesses do you typically leave Menden to access? I also found this very interesting because every single kind of type of store industry identified here was all over 50% besides gas that residents of Menden leave to access, and the highest of that was grocery. That was over 90%. Again, this is a little bit of a difficult one to read, but other than the COVID-19 pandemic, what has been the biggest economic challenges facing Menden over the past 10 years? One that I wanted to point out here, too few local businesses. This was another theme I saw throughout the survey, as many of you may have kind of seen from some of the responses from now. Also thought this was probably interesting due to the pandemic. A lot of people were spending more time at home and in the area, and maybe had time to reflect on, not as many businesses being local. So it may have had something to do with that being the most popular reply here. When it comes to public water supply, the town of Menden should. These are just the identified areas of where the town could consider putting in a public water supply. 30% said unsure, just over 33% said in the Menden Center area. And some moderate support kind of spread out through the others. Same question, except in concerning public sewer services, and then pretty fairly similar responses to that last graph we saw with public water. Just over about 33% for Menden Center area, and about 30% said unsure. And at the end of the survey, we give all the respondents a chance to kind of add anything that they would like to see. There were hundreds of comments, so a lot of the respondents were very eager to share their different thoughts about a lot of different things. We have that in the Dropbox survey. I wish I could read them all to you because there are some really interesting things that were said in there. But some of the main themes that I pulled out, and these may not be world shockers to many of you, but balancing growth with kind of preserving the open space, agricultural, rural character of Menden. And the responses for that were, a lot of responses talked, basically saying that they wanted to balance growth with that rural character, but then there was also a balance of the responses themselves, with many people saying we need to prioritize growth. Or some people may say, we need to make sure we protect the rural character and not let growth impede it. So there was a kind of a balance of responses themselves, and then also a lot of responses that said we need to balance both growth and our kind of rural character. As I talked about earlier, speed and traffic was consistently mentioned in any opportunity they were given to comment about it. And the general idea of improving and continuing to build a sense of community through different outdoor recreational opportunities and other things. And then also improving the ability to kind of safely walk and bike around, which had a lot of comments were said relating to the speed and traffic issue. So I know I just tossed a bunch of information at you all, so I'd kind of turn it over to anyone that might have questions about it.
Just a couple things that, based upon speed, traffic, walking, biking. looking for a grocery store. The good news is we're on the path for Route 16 is getting redone in another 2 years, I think. We have our meeting coming up, I believe in May, they said. I was able to get a glance at the plans that are conceptual at the moment, but it will really make a big, huge difference along the whole Route 16 corridor, all the way from Hopedale to the Hartford Ave intersection, and it's going to clean up a lot of what we have there. There's going to be bike lanes. They're putting in a full sidewalk all the way up, so it's really make a big difference.
They think some lane, third lane, so that you can pull into the third lane for your turns.
So there'll be turning lanes and intersections and whatnot, but there was nothing as far as like in Medway,
Right.
and there was none of that. No, but there's accommodations made for a lot of areas that are currently an issue. One of them we'll bring up at that May meeting will be at the drive-in to figure something out there. That's one of our biggest problems sometimes. So, and it was discussed in that quick meeting we had. So yeah, there'll be community input that May meeting. And then, if grocery store that's, in the works now goes through, that's another huge win for us to be able to have that. So just some things that are on the radar right now. So
Is that a public meeting, Lonnie?
that will be a public meeting for anybody in the town to come to. Actually, anybody,
Where are the sidewalks gonna be?
everywhere,
From
from
the
Hartford
drive-in?
to,
Both sides of one.
I believe one. And with all crossing lights, handicap accessible, they're changing intersections around where the monument is, intersections up here, intersections at Hartford Ave, intersections at Emerson, that'll all change. There'll be possibly another light there. So again, all conceptual at the moment. I don't want to really, nothing is actually filmed, but when they come in for our public meeting, then 2 years after that public meeting, it'll start the actual work. So it's also going to be very messy here for a little bit.
Worth it.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe people learn not to cut through our town, find alternatives.
And well, no, they'll be able to cut through faster.
Yeah.
What about easier?
Yeah,
Faster is
right, sorry, speed was an issue. So we'll slow them down for sure. We'll put in. Great, those are the only comments I had. Anybody else? Oh, Dominic has, sorry, Dominic, why don't you just go ahead and ask that question if you don't mind? You're on mute.
No, so sorry about this. So where is the grocery store slated to go and where is that in the development process?
Sure, the proposed location will be where the drive-in currently is. Sorry, no, I'm lying to you. The drive-in range, and what was formerly known as Barry's, which is across from the plaza.
Millville Street.
Yeah, it's the end of Millville Street. And it would be slated to be in that lot there.
Thank you so much.
Jack?
There I am. Well, I had to say something. It's very interesting. The survey I thought was very interesting. It's kind of like people want to save stuff, but they want to build stuff. They want affordable housing, but they don't want multifamily. And the message I got at the end, and I think Ryan really hit it, it's building a sense of community and balanced growth. And there has to be I think it should be, the master plan should purvey that we're going to take a sensible look at this. And, as an outsider, just recently working now in Menden, there is, at least unless you guys convince me otherwise, there is a real hard sense of a downtown. There's not a real walkable kind of area where you hang out and do your business and that kind of stuff. And that's something that can be achieved. But I think, I see moving slowly and having a balanced attack at the things you want to do. And my last comment, I always hear this. is, when I hear Tom and I've talked a lot, Maroli, about infrastructure, and you can't really have any kind of economic growth without infrastructure. It's just too difficult. And the same is for affordable housing, because without water or sewer, you're not going to find many people that will want to build affordable housing, because the only way they can make money, or a little bit of money, even though that's limited, is by density. And infrastructure is density. So that message, I think, it has to keep going. And I think the balanced growth should also be part of the infrastructure, because the infrastructure is a two-headed sword. You get too much, then you're going to have too much growth. So it's this whole thing that you have to I think should be all through the master plan. And it's kind of what people are saying without maybe even knowing they're saying it. That's it.
Thank you, Jack. Any other questions, comments on the results? All right. I guess that'll bring us in review our draft goals.
Great. Give me a moment to share my screen, please. So it seems to me that we've already taken at least one pass at these based on my notes that I've included as objectives, but I would like to go through them in light of the final survey results and what Ryan has just shared and what we've heard today. This is an iterative process. This is not the last time we're going to be reassessing these, but it would be very helpful if we can if we can nail these down in a 85% way so that we can proceed with objectives and action item development. All right, so let's see, share screen. I never do this on Teams, so please bear with me.
Little square with the arrow.
There we go. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
I'm going to zoom in so it's actually legible. Okay, so as you will all recall, we are currently working on phase 1 of the master plan. That includes 3 chapters: land use, economic development, and housing. In terms of strategy development, strategy articulation for the plan, you've crafted a great vision statement. And then from there, we're working on a tiered strategy articulation. So after the vision statement, we are coming up with goals that help advance that vision. Therein, we have more work towards increasing level of detail objectives, which are more applied strategies for advancing the goals, advancing the vision. And then finally, action items, which are really concrete, tangible steps that you can walk your strategies out the door with. It's, pen to paper, plan, feet to the street strategy. So right now we are wrapping up goal development. So although I've included some, partial working objectives in here, partly based on our discussion, there are notes, and I would just ask you to disregard them for the time being. They are helpful sometimes as reference if people are a little confused about the level of detail. Well, for example, why aren't you talking about, this very detailed aspect? Well, we're not on that level. We're not on objectives or action items. We're on goals. So perhaps, given Tom's feedback, we can start on economic development. So goal 1 was take a proactive and responsive approach to economic development that supports existing businesses and encourages new ones. So again, this is not just responding to incoming calls and developers, but also planning proactively, strategically, taking an active mindset in terms of courting and cultivating economic development. Goal 2, ensure business development is consistent with Menden's small town and rural character. I think that speaks a lot to what both Ryan and Jack and others were saying about a balanced tack. Goal 3, grow and diversify the tax base to promote a fiscally sound future. Straight from the survey. Goal 4, attract and retain small, consumer-oriented and local businesses for Menden residents and visitors to enjoy. Again, I think that one successfully speaks to the survey results in terms of what people said that they were looking for in terms of consumer-facing businesses. Goal 5, improve the town's streetscape and sidewalks to allow and promote more pedestrian and bicycle access to businesses. That will be further fleshed out in the transportation chapter, but I think it's important to speak to it because we know in this chapter, because we know it has a significant impact on economic development. Feet on the streets and people on bikes and out and about, moving in a more relaxed way through a community promotes business patronage. And other things. And finally, goal 6, improve the town's infrastructure where necessary and feasible to ensure Menden's infrastructure does not impede and can support desired economic development, which I think comes right to the last point that Jack had mentioned. So those are the economic development goals as tweaked in our last session and as per the survey results. Any feedback or thoughts?
I guess I have one comment on the last goal. On the infrastructure. It seems like the focus would mostly be like on Route 16 or Route 140. It's not like it's needed all throughout the town, but more to help in the areas. That might be too specific, but.
It would be a little bit specific given the sort of level of lack of nuance in some of the other goals. I would maybe suggest that we dig into it a little bit as objectives.
Mm-hmm.
What does everybody else think?
One question I have.
Sorry?
North Street. North Street is a cut through for most people coming from Upton and Worcester and whatnot. Would that be anything that would be interested in further developing, or is that more of a scenic road and should be kept that way? If the only two roads that we have for business is Route 16 and 140, doesn't that limit Menden to being a small bedroom town?
I'll put that to the experts, those who live and work in Menden. What do you guys think?
I mean, I would say that, it's definitely a busier street than some of our other ones. However, just based on kind of what that survey said, we being limited to Route 16 and 140 is definitely a limitation for us because it's not a lot of miles. And there is housing in there too that is using up what could be used as good commercial space. But to North Ave is I guess I would say let's really exhaust our current locations before we start looking at North Ave. And it is a busy street, and it would probably, I just don't know, I live there, so I don't know how busy it is, that it would, and I guess we'd have to see traffic counts. But again, I would say that let's leave that for after we've exhausted those other locations.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Lonnie on that. I mean, there is still potential on Route 16 and Route 140, and also North Avenue is a scenic road. It is like one of the historic roads in town, and so, I think that's something that should be protected.
I'm just looking for other routes other than 16 and 40, that's all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, maybe Providence Road or something.
So, right, the Providence and Hartford is already, I don't know if we've actually talked to yet, but there was the talk of making that mixed use for low impact business. So I know that was kind of our next level to go to there, off of the commercial on 16 and industrial down the other side of town. Sorry, Jack, you got your hand up? Oh,
yeah, just, I think, this is a master plan. We're not deciding exactly where we want to place infrastructure directly necessarily, I think. But I like that idea, Lonnie. I think you said it, is a priority should be given to the developed areas now, to look at them and see if that's where we want infrastructure to expand and if it can be expanded there. and then to look at other areas such as, and blah, blah, blah. Even Cape Road, right? Cape Road, is that something? I know there's some infrastructure there. I don't even know where all the areas would be. But I think the master plan would be setting in motion the desire to put some kind of long-range plan together on where you want infrastructure to go. And as you know, Lonnie, we've got a couple grants in, ARPA grants in, to hire someone to actually help us with infrastructure. I know, I think you already received 150,000 for that. So that's all.
Thanks, Jack.
I think
Tony,
those
go
are
ahead. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say those are some great comments. I think they are a little bit more next tier of detail that we'll be excited and keen to flesh out with you in subsequent rounds.
Okay, great. Tony, did you have something new?
It was kind of building on that, but I mean, I was just gonna say from what I do in my professional life, I work in commercial lending, and I was just gonna say that the most successful, and I'm not a planner, so take this with a grain of salt, but the most successful way to attract retail is already have retail there. So, focusing on retail corridors and commercial corridors, I think might be the way to go. And I know we're getting to the weeds, but I wanted to put in my 2 cents on that.
I think that's very valid. And I put it in our notes. Okay, so if those, not these objectives and these details that we're discussing, but if the goals in general resonate with you and what you think we've heard in the survey, and you know about your town, and you have no changes at this time, we can move on. We can consider it actionable. We can move forward with developing the next tier of strategies and move on to land use. So goal 1, similar to the last section, take a proactive and responsive approach to emerging land use policy developments. Again, this is about both, being progressive in terms of things and challenges, issues that are coming in the pipeline, and also planning proactively and strategically about your land use, such as, for example, where do you want to drive development to, and where do you want to protect it, cluster development, things like that, and different types of policies therein. Goal 2, identify key areas for specific types of development within the town and create mechanisms to encourage development in those areas. Very much what Jack was just speaking to now. There'll be various ways to advance that goal, but I won't dig into them as they'll need some real work and fact finding. Goal 3, preserve and protect the town's natural landscapes and resources, open spaces, and agricultural heritage in a manner that is fiscally sound. So as you saw in the survey, there's broad support for putting town dollars, whether it's CPA funds or other sources, into protecting these things. But also, I think in the survey, or consistently, we've heard in various ways through the town that, it's important also to keep in mind the budget. So that speaks to both of those things, or intends to anyway. Goal 4, ensure adequate infrastructure for essential and desired services now and in the future. So this is not just planning for today, but understanding potential population growth, different land use changes and needs, and planning accordingly. Goal 5, enhance and maintain the physical appearance of town. So this gets to, it's arguable whether, the sort of physical stuff belongs in land use, but I think we can reasonably keep it in there for the moment. And if, if we find that it fits better somewhere else, we can remove it. So first pass, we've got an expert land use planner on the line. Jack, or anybody else, any thoughts on these?
Well, I appreciate the word expert, but my only comment is I don't know if Kim has shared with you, the state hired a consulting firm, I forget the name, out of New York, to kind of look and collate what the immediate needs could possibly be to use ARPA funds with. And in that study, it came out wayfinding and signage and storefront facade business grants. And did you get that document?
Is this the local rapid recovery plan?
It might be.
Yeah, the one that focused on economic, yeah, absolutely. We have
Okay.
that, and we have started extracting the potential projects.
Good, because they did a good job. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that you were pleased with the results of that. I know that it was a huge effort. We did 7 of them on the CMRPC side, and I think that's very valuable in terms of coming up. It's a community vetted list of actionable projects to advance economic development. We're definitely going to be sourcing that in terms of objectives and action items. Okay, any other thoughts on the land use goals?
Oh, hold on, I got some hands up.
Sure.
Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, goal 5, this is just kind of being nitpicky,
Yep.
but I think it's kind of counterintuitive to say enhance and maintain. It sounds like they're kind of battling each other, those 2 words. That's really the only comment I had. I like the idea of it. I think I know what it's trying to get at, but off the top of my head, I can't think of a better way to word it. That just sounds a bit.
Maybe just maintain.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I get where it's coming from. Like, you want to try and improve what's out there, but you want to improve it in a way that's in keeping with Menden's character, I guess, is what it's trying to do.
We can come back to that and try to wordsmith a little bit. I think it leaves something to be desired too, to be honest with you. So we'll wordsmith that and bring it back unless somebody has some additional immediate suggestions for fixing it. Okay, any other hands or thoughts about these goals?
Dominique, how enhance and preserve the sound? Enhance and preserve the physical.
Oh, well, that's an easy fix. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, let's go with it. All right. If no other hands or comments, and I can't see because I've got obviously these notes up, then we can move on and consider these tentatively solid.
Good. Ship it.
Okay. All right. Population and housing, the last set we're going to review tonight. Again, goal 1, take a proactive approach to traditional and emerging issues in housing. We all know what that means now. Goal 2, ensure that new housing developments reflect Menden's small town feel, rural character, and agricultural heritage. Goal 3, encourage diversity and distribution of housing types to meet the needs of families and individuals of all ages and income levels. Goal 4, work towards compliance with affordable housing thresholds established by Mass General Law, Chapter 40B. And goal 5, ensure new housing developments utilize smart growth principles and prioritize open space. In light of everything we heard today, both from Jacqueline and from Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Tony, go ahead.
My comment is for goal number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I just think we should add the word after ages. We should maybe read families and individuals of all ages, abilities, and income level.
That's a great one. We really need, or not we, I suppose one would really want to work on that accessibility given everything we've learned.
Yeah.
Great. Other comments?
What in here? I got no hands up.
All right. Again, there'll be, opportunity to tweak slightly and wordsmith these. I would like them to be considered pretty close to what we're going with, just so that we can reasonably move forward with more detailed strategy articulation, which we will, our intention is for the next meeting to bring at least objectives for all of the goals. We're also going to shoot to have the action items done too, but that's pretty, given that it's the holidays, I think it may be, and I myself will be taking a little bit of leave. I think it's optimistic, but we're absolutely going to bring objectives for all of these for the next meeting. So that's everything I had on the goals, Mr. Secretary.
No, that's good. Yep, let's do right now we just have set the next meeting date and any open, oh, sorry, Tony, you still have your hand up? Wait, no, that's not my computer. That's.
Oh, let me stop sharing.
Yeah.
I do actually have a couple of some new business when it's time to take it.
Okay. Do we just want to set the next meeting date real quick?
Yeah, we should do the first Monday of the month at 6.
Okay, do
January 3rd.
January 3rd? Ooh. I don't know.
We can do the same.
Hold on. What does everybody think about the 3rd? Suppose it. Well, oh, New Year's Eve is going to be a Friday. Yeah. Yeah, that's.
January 3rd.
Is everybody okay with that? Same setup. And do we have any open tasks for the individuals, or are we just going to just kind of circle back on the goals and the pieces that Dominique, mainly that you'll be working on, or what we'll need for the next meeting?
Sorry, is that question directed to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
okay,
I kind of was, well, it was an open question saying, is there any open tasks for any of the members, or is it mainly going to be items that you'll be presenting at the next meeting?
I will. So homework, if you will. There are some things that would be very helpful, I think. So we have some good news to share, if I can take it out of turn. So as you know, we submitted a proposal in May, CMRPC did, to the state's Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for it to fund the remaining phase of the master plan. It is fully funded between a generous grant from the state, the town's match that comes, I believe, from a developer fund, and a match from our agency. The plan is now fully funded. So really excited to continue a streamless process. That said, this news comes a few months later than anticipated, which means we're just a little bit behind schedule where we would love to be. So we've started to develop the survey for the next phase. If in the interim, the members could take a look at the draft survey, submit feedback, then we can make the revisions and bring it back to you for the January meeting, where we hope it would be approved. And that would really expedite things for you guys, I think.
Okay, so we're going to, we'll have a link that we can send out to everybody to review the draft survey, and you want the comments supplied ahead of time, so that you guys can have them ready for January, so that we'll be able to hopefully approve and get that survey right out.
That would be perfect. And we can communicate by email and ensure that we provide you the link. The survey's, I think, probably 95% complete. We just have a few more questions to add in. So.
Okay.
Dominique, where would we find that survey?
Okay, the draft survey as it stands is currently in the Dropbox. Does everybody, you know what, I will send out the link to the Dropbox again, just in case folks need that, and then you'll have it. So every master plan steering committee meeting has within that folder, within that Dropbox, a specialized folder with all meeting materials. So the current draft surveys in there. We need to make a few tweaks though. So probably by end of week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's really great news. Thank you. All right. So I guess one goal for everybody on the committee is to really just take a look at that link and review and get any feedback you may have into them, so that again if we can start to speed a couple things up, that would be great to get us back on a track where we should have been based upon this great news. Any other business? All right. Yeah.
I think we also have an agenda item for the visioning workshop. So that is something, we can be taken a couple of ways. So usually once the vision and the goals are developed, most of the time the communities like to bring this back, the committees like to bring this back to the community, and just get some feedback on them before we proceed further. Given though that you've just got funding for the second phase and that you're about to launch a survey, it might make sense to save your survey capital by just doing it once. Save your community workshop capital by just workshopping this once. Whether it's online or in person, we can wait until we develop the other goals for the other 5 sections, which we're going to work on as soon as we have the survey results. Does that make sense? So pause on any vision workshop.
Yes, it does make sense. Yep, and I agree.
Okay.
We can do it like this too, right? We can invite people to come and also we can do it in an open space. I'm sure that in case people are physically do it hybrid, I would say. Anything else, Dominique?
I don't think there's anything else on our side.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ryan, for presenting that that information. That was really great information, and your summaries were spot on. So thanks a lot for doing that. Thanks everybody on the committee for coming, and anybody else that's here that's not on the committee. Just thanks for being engaged and helping us out with this. I was happy to see those results. I feel like it's kind of our track. Maybe, we're just inside the bumpers or bumping off a little bit, but I'd say that was pretty close. Other than that, motion to adjourn, I guess.
I'll second.
All right, who made the motion?
Oh, I'll motion to adjourn is Tony.
Okay. We have a second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thanks. What?
Oh, no, ignore that. Unless you want to read a Mickey book, just ignore that.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.
Great work tonight. Thanks, everybody. See you next month.